Hello everyone and welcome back to Kobean History. In today's episode of Medieval Professions, we are gonna take a look at the Leech Collector. A Leech Collector is someone who hunts or forages for leeches. In medieval times, leeches were mostly used in medicine as a way to perform bloodletting. Bloodletting was a form of treatment that was used to cure various ailments and sicknesses. We now know this doesn't have any medicinal value and could even be bad for you instead of healing you. But this was a different time, and back then they thought that bloodletting could purify the different humors, which were thought to be at the basis of our health. But now we know what they were used for, we will have a look at where they were found. Leeches are water creatures found in bogs, marshes and even swamps. Leeches are bloodsuckers and are attracted to warm-blooded creatures that would pass through the water. So for the leech collectors to acquire these leeches, they would need some kind of bait. Often horses or mules that were too old to work would be used to attract these leeches. If the leech collector was poorer, however, then they would likely use themselves as bait, often doing so by walking through the water with their legs bare. There were risks involved in leech collecting, however, as it can be difficult to remove the leeches before they had their fill of blood. It would often take around 20 minutes for a leech to fill itself with blood before it would naturally fall off. And animals or people that were used as bait usually had to wait until this happened and the leech naturally let go. Because if you try to remove the leech too early, it may damage the leech and then it would become useless. So after the leeches let go, they leave a small Y-shaped wound behind, which, as you might imagine, might be quite annoying that every time you needed a leech, you'd also get a wound with it. But this isn't just a normal wound, because the saliva of the leeches contain a natural anticoagulant. So the small wound would often continue to bleed for hours after the leech was removed. This could lead to the person or animals to become lightheaded or dangerously low on blood, depending on their size and the numbers of leeches that were attached to them. And of course, another risk would be blood-borne illnesses that the animals or the leech collectors could contract. After being collected, the leeches would have been stored in a container, mostly a small pot with water in it, with a lid that had air holes in it. The reason they used pottery instead of glass was due to the fact that glass was rarer and a lot more expensive than pottery, and a poor leech farmer usually wouldn't be able to afford it. Leech collecting was seen as a low-effort job, so it was often done alongside other jobs that could be done in the area, such as bog iron hunting, or in places where heather was growing, they could have done the job of a heather leader, or in East Anglia, for example, where reeds were used to thatch roofs. Thatchers could also collect leeches as they were gathering the reeds for the roof. All of these professions I have made previous videos about, and sometime in the future I will also make a video about the barber surgeon who would have bought leeches from the leech collectors to use as medicine. And for the leech collectors, another job or skill was especially needed in the colder months, when the weather caused the leeches to become more lethargic and more inactive. Leeches were a popular treatment up until the early 19th century, as modern medicine began to develop. In some places, local guild laws also placed restrictions on who leeches could be sold to, causing the profession to slowly die out as it was no longer being passed down the generations. Even as leech collecting was fading in popularity, the wealthy would still splash their cash to buy ornate leech jars as decorations. Leeches can still be used today in modern medicine, not for bloodletting of course, but instead to stimulate blood flow. This is commonly seen after a part of the body is reattached, and the leeches can be used to stimulate the blood flow in that part of the body. However, the medical leeches that we use today are born and raised in captivity to reduce the risk of bloodborne diseases. So that was my video on the Leech Collector. I want to thank my patrons for supporting me and you for watching. If you're interested in more medieval professions, you can check out the playlist on screen right now, or if you're interested in history as a whole, you can check out my channel to find a wider variety of content.